Hello, and welcome back to Thirsty Thursday. We're just going to wait for a quick minute for Will Lamont to join us, and then we'll get started on some stuff. Look, there you are.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
This starting awkwardness is always fun.
Oh, yes.
Well, here we are. Look, Tish is here. Hi, Tish.
Hi, Tish.
Okay, so we're going to chat about a few fun things this week. So this show, for those who are joining us for the first time, is a sort of a roundup. It's like the after show to our 4 a.m. report, where we'll talk a couple of things about key findings from our recording of the week, as well, because it's called Thirsty Thursday. We'll have a little chat about what's in the thirsty space, who's being thirsty on the interwebs, what's going well and what's not.
Right.
Okay, do you want to get started about the episode? What do we like this week?
Yeah, so this week's episode, we met a wonderful guy who's a marketer from the East Coast of Canada here, from Nova Scotia, Neil Stephen. And it was a good episode, just kind of a good rallying cry, words of encouragement for small businesses. And we were talking about the opportunities that are presenting themselves now. I think everyone's kind of come out of that reactive, hunkered down phase. People have been investing in infrastructure, figuring out ways to continue doing business. And now everyone's kind of shifting a bit more to the proactive and just wanting to step their game up and thrive once again. So it was a great episode. You should check it out. We really enjoyed talking to Neil.
There was a NASCAR analogy that I particularly liked. He was talking about how when you're, not that I know anything about this space, but let's go with it for a minute.
Yeah, me neither, but let's do it.
It's like when you're car racing and there's a crash, the aftermath of the crash is when it's anybody's game, right? Like when you actually have a crash or a crisis of some type, suddenly it really doesn't matter what car you have or what brand or how
you all get balled up, you all get all grouped together again.
Yes.
As you do those few laps while the car's being cleared and that sort of thing. Everybody's grouped back together again. Yeah,
and so that's the time where if you're a smaller brand that hasn't been able to get some of the big visibility, if you move fast in this time, you can get ahead, was his point. And I really like that. So that was really cool. We also have gotten back to, after a really long time, recording a few episodes ahead, because it's been like crisis management for the last 3 months.
Right.
And every single episode we recorded went live in a few days. So now we've started recording a few extra episodes. So we have a new one coming up next week. Do you want to tell people about it?
Yeah, it's what I think a lot of we talk about. It's actually, so the guest is Colin Druhan, and he is the executive director for Pride at Work Canada, which basically helps businesses be more inclusive when it comes to their LGBTQ plus employees. And what we talked about was true with what we're seeing people doing with the way brands are trying to support Black Lives Matter, is the way brands try to support the LGBTQ plus community. You know, it's wonderful to see the flags slapped on the buildings during Pride Month, June. But what about the day-to-day things that you're doing for your employees who are part of this community? And we dive into that, and it's very applicable to what's going on now with the Black Lives Matter too. With we see big brands wanting to get out there, show their support, post stuff on social media, but then, you hear from people who work for them, or, you hear about how they're doing that big show of support, but is it just tokenism? Are they actually trying to make changes institutional wise within their own company? So we talked a lot about that.
Yeah, the idea of tokenism versus real action, right?
Yeah.
Also, we should tell you that the reason we call this Thirsty Thursday is so we can drink in the daytime. I'm drinking beer. What are you drinking?
I was drinking an iced coffee, but I didn't want to disappoint you, so I poured a mini glass of red wine. I'm usually not at a loss for alcohol in my house, but I really didn't have much choice, so it's this one. Cheers.
I love that the company culture is I didn't want to disappoint you, so I'm drinking.
Yeah. It's so true. I'm like, quick, what do I have? I can't do iced coffee on the IG line.
Excellent. So let's talk about thirsty parts of the week. Where do we want to start?
Well, a few things. Something that I mean, we can look at this as fitting into that, but this is just something that I think is not cool and really annoyed me. Was the big grocery store brands announcing a few days ago that, you know, while back in March they had said, "Hey, our employees are frontline workers; they're heroes. We're gonna give you a raise." They all kind of at once, clearly there was some conspiring going on. All at once announced, "Hey, that $2 an hour raise we were giving you because we think you're heroes, we're taking back very soon."
Gone.
Which, first of all, nothing's changed in the grocery store. They're still wearing the protective equipment. We're still socially distancing. Nothing's changed in the grocery store. They're still working hard there the same way they did last month. So I don't know if this timing is right. I don't know how they messed up announcing this, but I know they're getting a lot of blowback, and it's kind of sad because these grocery stores have been making record profits during the lockdown, right? Everybody's grocery shopping. We're all making our own food and cooking at home more.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. It seems really insensitive. It seems really counter to what they initially said, where it's like, we celebrate our employees as heroes. They deserve more. A couple bucks an hour more. You think it could continue a little longer, if not permanently. I mean, I don't know the financial side of it all, but it just seems wrong right now.
They sort of all jump on the bandwagon really quickly, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm doing this, and here's the giant PR campaign around it." But when it comes to sort of living the message, I guess it gets a little bit harder.
Yeah.
A couple, I mean, I guess there's no real solution. It's not like we have the answers to any of this. But what it is that be careful about, I guess our message is, be careful about what you put out there that you're celebrating in this moment, and then you're going to walk back the line, and then it's a little bit embarrassing for everyone concerned. And trust is what is ruined, right? You're going to ruin trust if you do that.
Yeah. What about you, Susan? What are you finding too thirsty this week?
A few things. I feel like a few more of the associated Black Lives Matter backlash has continued to happen. So obviously last week we talked about Jessica Mulrooney and Sasha Exeter and that whole thing. So it was interesting to see that brands responded with speed and what you would expect from them, which was that many people did end up dropping her from their shows. And there's been deeper investigations into some of the things that govern like influencers. Like we were talking to our lawyer about it and being like, how is it so easy to drop someone like that if you have contracts? And it comes down to ethics, right? There's an ethics clause in most contracts, and if if you mess up the ethics clause, really, anyone can drop you. So that was something that I saw. The other thing that I saw was the fact that a number of the brands like Aunt Jemima and Mrs. Butterworth cookies and Uncle Ben's and a whole bunch of those brands which had these, shall we call them caricature versions of slightly inappropriate logos. And some of them are changing them. So I'm like, good for you that you're changing them. But it's 2020 and it's a little bit, I don't know whether to be pleased or disappointed or whatever, but it's sad that it took until 2020 for people to see that, but I'm glad that it's getting fixed.
Exactly. No, I agree too, Susan. I think it is. You feel yay, yes, that imagery should change, yay. But again, you feel like it really took this much, and we're in 2020 to realize that imagery of what Aunt Jemima, like it's inappropriate. So you feel happy, but then you're like, why did it take so long? But,
I know. I'm trying not to be judgy here. I'm like, good, at least it's changing now. So that's the other thing. And I guess the final one, if we leave that sort of conversation aside for a second and go off to awards and advertising and those sorts of things, the One Show Awards was like this week. And one of the things that stood out was, do you remember that Burger King commercial with the moldy Whopper where they had like video of the Whopper getting moldy over the course of like a week or whatever? And that little commercial seems to have like swept all the awards. So there were a few agencies involved and they've all been winning on different levels. And again, I guess this is the thirsty war between you and I, because we don't agree on this. I think like, oh my God, what is wrong with humankind that we need to see disgusting moldy food in order to know that people are using a lot of additives and whatever in their food. And you differ, right?
Yeah, no, see, I can see why it was a big winner, because it was a bold decision to make, to watch a Whopper decay in front of you just to prove that it's made with natural ingredients that would decay. But I think there's so much misinformation about fast food and that it's fake food. I mean, eating a lot of it isn't good for you. But the point they were making, and they really wanted to make it and drill it home, I guess, with some memorable imagery, was this food is real. Don't question it, and it will decay. It's kind of like, you know how Renee's salad dressings did a thing, an ad campaign about, you know, we have an expiry date because this dressing is fresh, and after you've had it for a month, you got to throw it out. And that's why you want it, because you know it's all fresh stuff, so it will go bad quicker than the other stuff with all the preservatives and everything. So for me, I'm totally fine with this kind of like moldy, decaying burger thing. I mean, looking at moldy food does make me gag a bit, but I thought that was a cool way to really kind of hammer home to all those people who have those misconceptions about, you know, a Whopper's not really meat or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Well, they won all the awards, so you know that lots of people agree with you, Will.
And you know what, Susan? This does tie into what we talk a lot now. It's like when you do take a stance or you do something a little risky and it's well thought out, you know, you're going to turn some people off, but hopefully the audience you're trying to reach, you're going to connect with.
Exactly.
So I think that's very true with people taking a stance right now with the Black Lives Matter or during Pride Month. You know, think out what you want to say and make sure, you know, think about how it is going to connect to your audience and reflect your values. But also in this climate, when you take a stand and say something, there's going to be people who are going to criticize you. And again, be ready to handle that. Also, hi, Lori. I miss you too.
Hi, Lori. Yeah, you know what? You're so right. It's about niching down and being like, these are my people. Yeah. And if this thing that I do is going to offend them, then that's okay. At least you know, and you move on. We certainly do this well, right? We can come up with all kinds of obnoxious names and descriptors and, you know, social terminology. And if you're like, if you don't like this, you're probably not going to like us.
Yeah, I think that's something that's come with age, right? Too. It's like, you know, now that I'm over 40, I'm like, well, if you don't really like this and this and this about me, then we probably aren't going to work well together. So it's a good barometer. It's a good test to make sure you and
and formidable and forbidding.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So that's us this week. Those are the little stories that are going out there in thirsty interwebs. Go check out our episode of the 4 a.m. report where we're talking about economic improvement happening one rung of a ladder at a time. Lots of NASCAR and Seth Godin jokes in there. So that was fun.
Oh, thank you, Carla. She just commented on my hair. Oh, Carla, something I was going to mention on this too that you'll be interested in. And Susan, I said I was going to end with this because it was a happy story. You know how in the States now they're getting rid of all the they're trying to get rid of Confederate statues and statues of slave owners and things that represented a bad part of the U.S. history in front of state legislatures and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Well, in Tennessee, they want to get rid of this, you know, old racist dude who's memorialized in front of their state legislature. And there's a huge petition right now to replace that statue with a statue of Dolly Parton, Tennessee's true hero. So I really hope that happens, because that would be such a wonderful thing.
Yes, on that happy note, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye.
Bye, guys.